Good morning. My name is Yusuf Leary. It is a pleasure to be here today, and I am applying for the position of Success Director for the Center of Black Excellence within Portland Public Schools. I am currently a Portland Public Schools employee based out of the MTSS department. I am a restorative justice specialist, have been working for PPS for the last 8 going on 9 years. I am also the head basketball coach at Roosevelt High School, where we have just completed our season, had a very successful season. So happy to be here and want to continue to have an impact on my city and also have an impact on our district, which I care deeply about and have in hopes of staying here for a long time. And so this is a product of trying to make those dreams come true and take the next step within my career. I will start with 3 scenarios that will give some insight as to how I would handle situations, complex situations, some insight as to how I think, how I process, and also just what's important to myself, just what's important to me and my community. And I think that's equity. Equity and inclusion are some of the biggest hurdles that we have as not only a community, but as a country. And it's important that we highlight that and allow not only our colleagues and our district to understand the priority of empowering those students who are traditionally and historically underserved, but also it shows for other school districts and other communities that they can also take a look at what we're doing and some of the practices we're doing to keep our Black students engaged and raising the bar for educational equity. So to start, I will start off with scenario number 1, and that is about implementation. Scenario number 1, it is July 2023. An internal staff team has created their work plan for the following school year. Each staff member has a defined set of roles and responsibilities. During the annual back to school address in August 2023, the superintendent announced Black student achievement as priority number 1. The staff team who previously created their work plan begrudgingly now must shift their priorities. Please share your plan to build rapport with this team in order to align their work plan and support a Black student achievement. Describe how you navigate complex working situations in service of the greater good. In complex working situations, especially working with colleagues who may not understand or value equity in the same way in which I do personally, I always want to just start with building rapport and building a relationship and building an appreciation for the work that they have done. I also understand that creating these academic and strategic plans also takes a lot of time and effort, and I wouldn't want anybody to feel like their time or effort was in vain. I would try to find ways to improvise with them and also find ways to make sure that we're correlating with our current PPS instructional framework to make sure that we're putting educational equity at the forefront of our goal and what we're trying to achieve this year. It would be remiss to not mention the historical context of our educational system and for our teachers to understand why we are doing what we do and why we have the goals that we have. Not to say that there's things that we can't improve on or things that we're not going to continue to work on or even take away from our old practices, but it's important to understand that our focus is new. And our focus should be the priority of empowering Black students, Native students, and Latinx students, and putting them in a space to where they can feel valued and appreciated within whatever school setting they are in, which then increases our community and enhances our community and provides educational equity in that way. It is important that the PPS framework is centered here. And the reason for that is because in the framework, it includes a lot of things that already touch on how we can build that equity, how we can continue to put that equity first, and also it gives specific strategies as to how to keep the work rigorous, how to make sure equity is the key for what we're doing, and also how to just make sure we're comprehensive in everything that we do and make sure that we're inclusive. That is the main thing for me, especially as a restorative justice specialist. It's important that our work is equitable and inclusive and provides space for all voices to be heard and all thoughts and opinions to be at least valued and appreciated. So I think that through conversation, through dialogue, through approaching things restoratively, we have a chance to shift perspective and shift our tone and shift how we think and how we prepare for a school year. And so I would always want to start with rapport and relationships and making sure that I have those relationships with the people that I'm working with, so that when I do come with an idea or I do want to change something, it'll be received in a way that is appreciative. And I think the way that you do that is you serve people. You make sure that they know that you're on their team, that you support them through what they go through and through the ups and the downs, because a great leader is a great server. And through that serving and allowing that to manifest, it creates appreciation, and appreciation creates great work. So it's important to build the rapport first and then start to talk about the structural aspects of including the instructional framework. So we'll go on to scenario number 2, which is ongoing stakeholder engagement. Scenario number 2, a new family moves to the Albina neighborhood from California and sends their student to a school with the Center for Black Student Excellence presence. They have concerns that the school is discussing Black achievement and excellence too frequently. Please describe the strategies that you'd employ to socialize the Center for Black Excellence and ensure both new and old families become champions of Black student achievement, even if their student is not Black or come from a diverse background. It is important for them to express their perspective. First thing I would do is ask them why there are some challenges or why they might feel differently as to what this approach may be. Get their feedback and get some understanding of where they're coming from, and then give room for understanding. As we go through the conversation, I'm going to ask for room for understanding. So it's important to model that and showcase that in a restorative way so that the conversation can be heard and the dialogue can be received. I would then talk about the ways that they could incorporate themselves into the community and the ways that they would have a responsibility in the community to enhance our community, and also explain the historical context of Portland, Oregon, talk about the displacement of African Americans and Black people from the city of Vanport, talk about just different things that have brought us to this point of needing educational equity and being transparent and frank about that. And then talking about ways that they can enhance our community and ways that they can be a part of making this change for the better and making sure that everybody is receiving a valuable and inclusive experience while at PPS. I would invite the families to our evening nights where we have family nights, cultural nights, back to school nights, movie nights, anything we could do to build rapport with that family, to also make them feel engaged with the community so that they can then have outlets within the space that they are in so that they can create a safe space for them. And also just trying to create that connection. So where they're invested, we're invested in what they're doing, they're invested in what we're doing, and we're working together to try to enhance what we can for our students. It's important that we talk about the diversity or lack of diversity within the community as well. And when we putting these things first, when we put diversity first, when we put equity first, it changes the narrative of what is happening within that community. The historical context of the Albina community is essential to trying to have success for this program. We can't talk about success of the program without talking about the lack of resources the Albina community has had since the displacement of African American people in the Vanport city. It's important that we make sure that every family, every student, every community member feels valued. And how do we do that? We try to incorporate time for them to share their input, time for them to give us feedback, talk about ways that their feedback and their input and their engagement is a benefit to our whole community. Allow them to meet people who share in different perspectives, who may come from different backgrounds and can provide a different outlook on the situation so that we can start to build some of that community. Although we may not all come from the same background, we all are humans. And though we all have our own individual spaces, we share a community. So it's important to streamline what that looks like and streamline what that accountability looks like for enhancing our community. And so when we put in certain things like having those community engagement nights, receiving feedback and input from our parents, from our community, it just builds a positive understanding of what responsibility in that community is. And so scenario number 3 is called moving to scale. During the design and engagement process, to create the initial concepts for the Center of Black Excellence, a racialized incident occurred in a West Side school where Black students are far fewer in numbers than our initial geographic footprint in North and Northeast Portland. How might we scale programs and strategies and experiences of the CBSE to also impact students across the rest of the district? I love this question. This allows Black voice to be at the center of our change in our community, which we know has not always been the case. So I just love this question. I love this outlook. Through creating a framework at the CBSE and having a streamlined understanding of our goals and our educational equity and what we're trying to instruct and what we're trying to implement, it gives us a unique opportunity in the city of Portland to then be the pilot and to allow other schools to be inspired to see the work that we are doing, the work that we do care about, and then be able to transform that to fit their unique community and their students. It's also important to note that our communities are different. Working in the albino community may have more of a diverse demographic than in some other schools within our district. But it's important to note that by building that rapport and building that relationships with the students and the community and the people of the community who are from diverse backgrounds and getting their input, getting their feedback, asking them what's important to them and what they deem is success for their student is very, very impactful. And through the Center of Black Excellence, we have an opportunity to be able to ask a bunch of people how they feel. And when I say people, I mean Black people specifically, how they feel about the educational system, how they feel about Portland Public Schools, what different things they are noting, what are they seeing, and how can we improve? And by being able to start there and start with that dialogue, it then can now, other schools can now see how that dialogue was created. Because this is just my personal opinion working through restorative justice, but a lot of times those conversations are hard to have for staff from schools, from admin from schools, engaging with the community in a way that they can receive that information. One thing that I champion myself on is the ability to communicate and the ability to relate. And so being able to meet someone where they're at and gain understanding of their perspective and then be able to share your own is a unique piece that the Center for Black Excellence can then exhibit and model for other staff and admin across the board, across the district. It's important to have a centralized response to racialized incidents, because I think that through the restorative work I have done, we see that different schools, different communities respond to it differently. And it's important to note that racism, regardless of where you're at or what you're doing, is racism, and it needs to be addressed as such. And so we cannot do that without having a centralized, streamlined vision of what it means to channel these racialized incidents and turn them into a positive so that our students feel empowered and enhanced after these incidents happen, but also to hold accountability to those who have committed the harm within the community. We have that unique opportunity, and I'm looking forward to trying to challenge not only myself, but our colleagues to recognize implicit bias, to recognize racialized incidents, to recognize things that happen, covert, overt, things that happen that may be unintentional, microaggressions, so that we can start to build a streamline and an understanding of what it is that African American students, Latinx students, Native American students, what they go through on a daily basis. They are not just coming to school and receiving an education. They are also going through a social dysphoria that they have to navigate themselves. And a lot of times they don't have the tools or the resources to navigate them in a successful way. And that's where we come in. And we try to provide those resources and provide that empowerment for them to feel that they can conquer anything, regardless of what that obstacle may be. Although they are in school now, this is not the last time they will be involved in racialized incidents or hear about racialized incidents. It will continue to happen as long as they are developing and as long as they are here on earth. And it's still things that happen to me today as an adult. So I know that if they can build the skill sets and the tools to be able to properly address them and redress them in a way that could be restorative, it is positive for those students. And it's a skill set that not many of those students from our community have. And so it's important to note that. I hope to bring my restorative background and the things that I've learned throughout the work that I've done into my decision making, into the way that I construct dialogue, into the way that we collaborate, all because those communications provide opportunities for us to be heard and for our voices to be brought to the table. And essentially, that is something that the African American community, Latinx community, the Native community has not had. And we need to provide and intentionally provide space for their voices to be heard and for their opinions to matter and impact the work that we are doing. Having curriculum that is culturally responsive, that dictates directly to what our students can relate to is important. very important to create those spaces for our students to feel as though they can relate to what we're doing and what we're talking about. That is part of engagement. So we as the employees, we as educators, we as admin have just as much equal responsibility to their success as they do to their own success. And I think by creating the Center for Black Excellence, it's a perfect opportunity to start to build on that and to start to empower our young Black students. And being someone who has come from Portland Public Schools, a graduate of Lincoln High School myself, and now have gone on to graduate from Rutgers University and a master's from Warner Pacific University, that started with people within Portland Public Schools who valued what I was doing, valued my mind, and inspired me and empowered me to keep going and keep being greater than what I even thought I was able to do or what I even expected of myself. So I am a prime example of what Black excellence can look like, but also knowing that I did not start there. I did not always feel that way about myself. And through the encouragement of people within PPS, specifically people that looked like me within PPS, I was able to find out the value in my own self and then build on that to where now I do the work myself. So I'm always appreciative of what this district has provided for me. And now I want to be an agent of change within this district as well. So I say all that to say thank you for this opportunity. And I look forward to being an agent of change in Portland Public Schools, and thankful for this opportunity and want to continue to build dialogue and create dialogue around what it means to have success as an African American student within our district. And it's important to still build on that and continue to think on that. The Center of Black Excellence will not be the end all be all for that problem or the solution for that problem. It is a stepping stone towards a solution. It is not the solution. So it is important that we note that and continue our work and continue to be intentional on our work, and as long as it revolves around educational equity. Thank you.